Started here. I'm just waiting for my slides to go up, but we're waiting to do that. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about is that there's a lot of conferences that we're coming into right now in South Florida. And if you happen to be in town, let me know if you want to meet up. If you're an investor, if you're a service provider, an accountant, or an attorney, we already have all those services. So thank you for that. I'm going to be going over the 9 circles of hell as it relates to conference networking. And there's a lot of people who I've talked to over the years, and they all come to the same understanding, is that they keep not meeting the right people, and they don't know how to do that. And really is that they're not qualifying themselves. And again, the first rule when I think about conferences is that you got to think there's a barrier to entry, right? If the barrier to entry is so low, why you are going to be sold something. You're not going to be meeting with other investors. You're going to be meeting with founders who are desperate, who are looking for a free buck. That's really what they're looking for, or someone to give them $50,000 or a small denomination for their startup. And the nation is full of that, especially now, the second Trump administration, there's tremendous amounts of capital, I can tell you, flying in. However, that doesn't necessarily mean all capital is the same, but we want to make sure that you guys, from a little bit of trench experience here, have an understanding of what we look at and what I look at actually when I go to conferences. And some of this may be construed as me wanting to make fun of people, but I'm not. And I think if you understand it and if you look at it through these filters, you're going to find out that you're not going to have to kiss as many frogs to get to the prince that you want. Maybe that's a family office or a investor for you. So here we are. On Saturday, Sal's 9 Circles of Hell Conferencing Networking Edition. And this is Trench Experience, okay? So if you're raising capital, this is required reading. Conferences are not networking events, they're sorting mechanisms, right? The brain has to sort everything. And what you want to do is you want to be able to sort things too. Just like if somebody were to ask you if you were expecting a kid, they would ask you if you meant, I'm on a live stream, yes, right now. I'm in the middle of this, please. I'm sorry.
Just pick it up.
I'm on the middle of something right now.
Well, so am I.
No, you just walked in.
But this is
This is a full table.
I know, I'm using it for 15 minutes. Why be so rude?
You're the one who's rude. This is a full table.
These are sorting mechanisms. Most people wearing badges belong in Dante's Inferno, not your cap table. These are 9 circles that you'll walk through in ascending order of wasted time. Number 1, the broker dealer. He's your best friend. He never stops calling. If you don't like the deal in his left pocket, you're going to love the one in his right. The joke in the industry is that his last name ends in ski. I've met a lot of them that ends in ski. Washed out of a bulge bracket bank. They can't raise capital. They can't place paper. To use David Ogilvy's term, they are extinct volcanoes. All smoke, no eruption. If you are seeing this on an email and somebody has a disclaimer at the bottom that says they're an NASD broker-dealer, that means that they are a broker-dealer. And they're attempting to talk to you because to them, it's a numbers game for them. For them, it is just essentially they're trying to cast the widest net possible. And really what they're doing is that they're selling you deals. They don't really want to help you raise capital. They're selling you deals, and that's why they're there, is to find new investors. Number 2, this is interesting. The wealthy investor with no discretion. There's a lot of these out there too, and you see it a lot with family trusts. And we ran into this a couple times before, but it's worth mentioning. These people look rich, they sound rich, they have access to a trust, but he hasn't spoken to his brother in 5 years, and guess who else has to co-sign? You're going to do all the work. You'll send the deck, you'll send the documents, and those are hard to put together if you've ever used DocuSign. Then comes, quote, family dynamics, and then you leave empty-handed. There's nothing you can do about that. Number 3, the family office heir. We call this pre-authority, and we run into this a lot with our deals, and it's something that really came during, most recently with SpaceX raise and other high-profile raises. These people show up, they're 2nd or 4th generation, they go to conferences, they've never made a single decision alone. And it's not like having to ask their wife. We're talking about families here and lineage and generational, meaning the father is not really going to give him discretion, the D word, discretion to write a check. He does not hold the purse strings. And that usually doesn't really come until after death, to be honest with you. If he's male and his hair falls below his collar, abort immediately, no discretion, no authority. You'll always need to talk to the father. And the father won't trust you because you know the son. Not always, but That's the way it is sometimes. And it's kind of generalist to say this, but this is some of the things that we're seeing when we talk to people today. It's that, hey, I want to get into SpaceX. Okay, so how much of a check are you going to write? Oh, 10 million. Okay. Here's the documents. Here's everything you need. Here's the term sheet. Here's who you need to contact if you have any questions. And then before you know it, they're like, oh, I have to run it by my father, which is something they probably should have told me earlier on. But a lot of people like to hold it to their chest. But when push comes to shove, it's always about going to the father. Number 4, this is something that's, I think, one of the biggest schemes. I think people don't do it necessarily. I think people just don't understand it, and especially with the great inheritance that's coming down from from one generation to another. You're going to see a lot of these second gens or third gens have absolutely no discretion. Again, the D word. What does that mean? It means that sure, you live a good life and you have a good stipend, but you have no ability to write checks because everything has to go through the RIA. And let's just say that's JP Morgan, Santander, or whatever it is. They love startups and they love being involved. They love going to conferences until their RIA says, we don't invest in startups. So the RIA is a very tricky thing to do because they're never going to approve any assets to be broken off to a startup if you're approaching them that way. They make money off of percentage of fees, and it is very inappropriate almost to ask an RIA to part ways with some of his clients' assets. But what do? They want proximity to winners. They want to feel involved, but they will never write a check, and it's all investor cosplay. All right, this is something that's big in Miami, and it's really interesting. The heiress, real or imagined, claims lineage, implied wealth, vague last names. Sometimes she is an heiress, and I know one or two. More often, she wants to be and lies about who her daddy is. There's no relevancy, again, discretion, which means no check writing authority. Eventually, she'll ask you for money for her deal. And I was thinking about this when I was putting the slide together. Predators always don't look desperate. Some look curated. And I can tell you these people, and they come to you, and they're very social, but you wonder how they make any money in life and how they close any deals because they have absolutely no experience. Number 6, a service provider with no social skills. These are first-generation associates, legal, compliance, accounting, consulting, SaaS, whatever. They have zero awareness, zero charm, infinite small talk, usually ESL candidates, to be frank. More and more, a lot of these law firms have been hiring first-generation immigrants who have English as a second language. They will trap you at a highboy table during happy hour at the Ritz and make you consider chewing your arm off to escape. They have a lot of professional credentials. They have more 3-letter acronyms after their names than most people that I've met. But they are a personal liability, and of course, there's no one that you ever want to do business with. You don't even want to give them the card. Number 7, the aftermarket big talkers. These are guys that used to do a lot of things in the past, almost like the extinct volcano. Everything is about the close. Every conversation ends in almost. There's perpetual motion, zero outcomes, and they just look very busy because they think to the world that that is their status and their identity of being very busy, but they're definitely not productive. And I can assure you, with some of the people that I've worked with, who I've met, when you get to know them a little bit, you just really don't understand how the hell they make money. All right. The attention deficit networker. Well, this is going to be a little tough. They mean well, they're wired wrong. They have the attention span of a gnat, and they have those behavioral idiosyncrasies sponsored by Tylenol. You'll explain your deal to them 3 times. They'll nod. They'll forget. They have no organization, and they have no follow-through. It's optimism without cognition. And the 8th one, which gets every middle-aged guy every time, is what I call the apex predators. And these are usually female, very attractive alpha females who are insurance brokers, commercial mortgage brokers, or capital advisors. They are fit, they're polished, they're charismatic, and they're very powerful women who could put a 63-year-old man into putty. And you see a lot of these guys just falling in love with these service providers, much like guys do at a strip joint. They know exactly what they're doing, and they're very successful, and they dress to the nines, and you can tell they're successful. They're very successful men and women. If you don't know why they're talking to you and you're a 70-year-old man, you are the product. This isn't evil. This is efficiency. And then the final rule for all of this is that conferences are not about meeting people. They're about avoiding the wrong ones. If you are raising capital, discretion beats wealth, authority beats access, alignment beats character, charisma, really it does. And more importantly, the people you meet and through these conferences, you need to be able to choose carefully or just stay away. There's too many people, I think, who like to be nice. They like to follow up, but there's a lot of people out there who are time suckers, and they will be throwing stuff to you and getting you involved in things that you never wanted to be involved in. So I am going to leave it here for questions. If everybody has questions, do not text me on the phone. I know who you are. I'm not going to read it. Why don't we put it in the comments here, and I'll stay on for a little bit, a little longer, maybe for a few moments if anybody has any sort of any questions here. I'm in a meeting room here with a pool table, and these old people walked in and they were just being absolutely rude. So it's going to be an interesting conversation after this ends afterwards. But I appreciate it. We're doing a lot of work in our building right here, and usually where I work from is just absolutely noisy with strip hangers and all sorts of construction that's going on the exoskeleton here, much like a lot of the apartments and condos in Miami today. So I'm going to, Esteban, how are we doing? I'm talking to you, my friend. I'm talking to you. Perfect. All right. This is great. Really love it. Really, really love it. All right, guys, we're going to stop here. I think what's the most expensive mistake you see people make at conferences? You know, it's like dating. It's a very good question, Esteban. It's sort of like when you talk to these, and this is the biggest turnoff, and people will say, hey, let's meet up one-on-one. I'm like, I don't want to meet up one-on-one. I meet up with a bunch of people on Friday at a bar in Miami, and that's, you know, if you want to meet me, we'll meet there, because I'm on calls all day during the mornings and afternoons. And I think the most expensive mistake people do is that they just go right into the business and right into the pitch, probably within the first 5 minutes of meeting someone, and it is a complete turnoff. It's the equivalent. It's going to be the equivalent, I think, of, you know, you meet someone at a bar and you're a little too aggressive and you grab her rear end and you get slapped. This way you just get, you know, basically blacklisted from future conferences. It's a mistake because if you're raising capital, especially if you're raising capital for anything that most people would be doing here, it's going to be illiquid. I know you say it's illiquid or you can get out in a year and anything, but mostly these are illiquid investments, and that is the most important part here. So you're asking someone to marry you, and you really have to court them for marriage, because that's really what that is making sure that people really like and appreciate working with you. If they can't stand being in a bar with you, even after a couple drinks, then they're not going to want to work with you again. So there's, I'm sure, videos on YouTube that teach charisma. I've seen people talk about it. I don't do that, but I think for people out there, especially those who are getting started, you should know that you're always in sales, and that's the most important part. And sales is relationship driven. There's also a YouTube video out there by Jim Donovan, who's a managing director at Goldman Sachs, and it's called "Are You Destined to Deal?" And most people are not destined to deal. You have to look at yourself as if you were asking for money, that you are actually, you're humble and you show it that way. So great question, Esteban. I know you're taking questions from the audience. Do we have any more questions? Do we? No? All right. Okay. I think this is great. Let's see. What else is going on? All right. Let's see. Esteban, any more questions, my friend? Nope. All right. Maybe you can't hear me. Are you guys getting anything out of this? Tell me in the comments. It's pretty funny. All right. Cool. Oh, if it could be one rule for conferences, what would it be? Be cynical at best and paranoid at worst. If somebody comes up to you and they start talking about all this money and everything that they've done and dropping names, that's usually a big turnoff to me. Okay, great. We'll see what happens. Let's talk. Let's build a relationship. And in 30 days, if I ask you for a check, you don't write it, or you give me some sort of dance around, then I'll categorize you in one of the 9 circles of hell. Great question, Esteban. I wonder, please thank person for that. One more question. All right. Esteban is fielding questions from other people and feeding them here, and I appreciate him doing that. So great questions. Great question. Anything else? All right. Yeah, I mean, it's conference season, and remember, if you're starting out, you know, you're going to pay for it one way or another, and you're going to pay for it with time, but you're ultimately going to pay for it with money, and that is the conferences you go to, the more you pay, the sweeter the air is. Service providers and people who can't afford $25,000 tickets are going to be the ones who will not go there because they can't afford it. But if you're able to get into the room with that, that's probably the best use of your money. Somebody asked me one time, they were doing a 506c, and which is like you can open, it's sort of like crowdfunding. And one of the things is that, he asked me, he's like, should I buy a lot of ads? And I said, no. You should go to a lot of conferences. These are the conferences you go to. Budget about $35,000 and you're going to be much further ahead. He did that to one conference and he forever thanked me for it because it just changed his perception on what it was like to be in the room with these guys. And it's really what it is. That's why people join country clubs or pay, $70,000 a month for a house in the Hamptons or even more than that these days. It's all about the networking. And that's really what it is, because the networking is the power that you have. And that's the power that you can use as a lever or as an asset to help other people who you meet who might need help and need their problem solved. You can say, oh, I met this one guy at the Milken conference or at iConnections or some of the other conferences, and he seems to be doing something like you're doing. Maybe he can help you out here a lot. So, all right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this is great. I hope I didn't offend anyone. But this is, if you're raising capital and you're going into conference season, a lot of people are going to be in Florida for the next 2 months. This is going to be probably the perfect setup for you to make sure that you're using a good filter and you're sorting. Take care, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.